It's fair to say that today, most of the problems that face our society is to do with human relationships. In other words, the fractured relationships that we've had with one another. This could be something we've experienced as a child or even as adults. And most of those memories that trigger other problems cause more problems going forward. Now, today, we have to talk about how we are going to get back to our normal state of equilibrium. And that means we have to discharge the worked up energy that is seated in the bottom bits of our soul. Hi, I'm Toyin Okanuga. I am your self-realization mindset expert. I'm the author of Hush to Roar, and I'm the CEO of Hush to Roar. Most of my topics that you'll see are to do with our mindset, what's happened to us as a child, the adverse events we've experienced, and now how it's manifesting in us as adults. And yes, today I'm talking about the psychology behind discharging the energy that we have built up in us. And this causes inner conflict. But if we do not discharge this energy, the science behind it is the fact that we are not completing the cycle that we have started, and we will always have issues if we don't. We will inflict pain on ourselves and on others. And I am a living witness that that is indeed the case. And because I have gone full cycle, and it doesn't mean full cycle means one cycle, it's so many. In fact, I'm still going through some that I've realized I didn't even trigger during my healing process that would come up for me that I still have to deal with. And where I'm going with this is to say that when we are born, we have, if there are no defects or anything that we are born with, when we are born, we are in a state of equilibrium, alert equilibrium. And as we are, that cycle is there, it's complete. It means that we can carry on living a life, growing up to be well fulfilling, potential fulfilling adults. Now, that is the case for, I'm sure, few people, because let's face it, if we are here, we will all or will go through one thing or the other. But the problem is not in what we are experiencing, because that is inevitable. What we need to do, from my personal experience, is that we need to complete the cycle of what we have started in terms of the trauma that we have experienced. Now we need to discharge the cortisol, adrenaline that has worked up that energy and has built in that stuckness in us. So what happens, the science behind trauma is the fact that if something frightening happens to us and we are unable to mobilize ourselves to get away from that danger, in other words, we are immobilized, it means that we still experience the same type of anxiety even though we cannot get away. So what that means is that the adrenaline and the cortisol that are there, it like a life-saving energy for us to get away from maybe like an animal, if that is traumatic in terms of maybe a loss of someone, or you're being abused and you can't get away, you still have that same energy working up in you. The only difference is that it stays in your body. Yes. And I'll give you a little story about myself. Many of you will know the types of traumatic events that I personally had as a child growing up. And one of them, I had several, and there were different levels of traumatic events. And what capped it all was the abuse that I could not get away from. And there's the science behind that, is because I was frozen in time. My saving type of energy, the best solution it could give me at the time was to just not run, but to freeze. But what that did was that it made all the energy that was worked up within me, the cortisol and adrenaline got stuck in my body. So the effect of that for me, which I experienced full on, was the fact that growing up, I was always at a high alert. Yes, anyone that knows me or knew me then, that's the old Toyin, would know that I was always like anxious. It was as if I wanted things to happen so quickly, because something within me was always heightened because of the energy that I had not discharged as a result of the traumatic events in my life. And I actually had something physical, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos. I had like a strained nerve running from the back of my neck all the way to my neck, my back area. Now, that I had from as a teenager all the way until I was an adult. It was only when I spoke up publicly about the abuse I endured and all other traumatic events that miraculously that tensed nerve got released, and I do not feel it at all now. It has gone. And so for me, that is evidence. And then to back that up, I thought, I need to read into this. Is that true? Is that miraculous or what? It was. So all the adrenaline and the cortisol that gets stored up when you are anxious gets stored in the body. Guys, this is factual, because when you are in the trauma state, your body is waiting for you to go full cycle. Yeah, some of us, or most people, will always experience some hardship in life, but we can't stay there. We have to go full cycle to release that discharged energy, because it's only when that energy is fully discharged from our body that we return to the equilibrium, balanced state of ourselves. And that is why we need to release all the traumatic events in our lives. And you might be saying, oh, well, how do we do that? In other videos, I've explained different strategies that I use, but get your hush to roll. You will see full on how I released all that energy that was heightened in my body. And it's just vital, because if we don't do that, as I've mentioned time and time again, hurting people hurt people. That energy still needs to be discharged, and you and I would think that we are doing it in the correct way, because whether we like it or not, unconsciously or subconsciously, we will be releasing that energy because it's there and it's causing us discomfort. However, if we don't do it in the correct way, we will do it in a way that hurts ourselves. And an example of that is that we'll always be anxious. We'll always feel that something out there is slow, and because our inner sense is always heightened. We'll always be anxious. We'll always be fearful. We'll always feel that something negative will happen. We'll also always, most of the time, sabotage things that are good, that are coming our way. We'll push them back because our inner state is not at the equilibrium level where we can fully absorb the goodness that is coming towards us, until we go full cycle several times. So that is discharging, why we need to discharge the energy that is built up. It could be a loss of someone. We need to feel what's coming up. We need to feel it, and we need to get help. We need to speak to someone who can render us that human connection to discharge the built up energy that needs to be expelled no matter what, because the nervous system works in a way where it has to get the energy out. If it does not, we will be in a state of heightened mode all the time. And I won't go into the different ways, but what I will say is that seek help if you are always on the edge, if you are at work and you are always anxious, because I still time to time get myself into that state and think, oh my gosh, and I think I have to calm down, I have to work my way of doing my own what one of my beautiful neuroscientists, Carolyn Leaf, says, neurocycle. I have to go through the neurocycle of calming myself down, doing my meditation and saying, I am safe now. That's okay. But until you have fully healed, the energy is simply going to sit there and you'll be discharging it in a way that is unhealthy. So that is the science behind the inner conflict, discharging the energy that is in our body. That's why, because we have to go full cycle. Like I said, we'll all most likely experience one thing in our life that is adverse. That is not the issue. The issue is, how do we come out of that? You have to return back to how you were in that equilibrium state, but you have to do that by discharging the energy that has built up through the adrenaline and cortisol that have built up in your body. So guys, these are more than golden nuggets. They are life-saving sort of like conversations that we need to be having, because if we don't discharge all this energy that's built up, this world will not be a world that we want to live in, and we'll continue to just transfer that hurt that we have and go over and over with it if we don't heal, if we don't seek help, if we don't banish that shame and say, it's okay, I am going to seek help, I need help. Or you say you don't want to cry, please cry, feel your feelings, get help so you can let out all the energy that's worked up in your body. So guys, that's all from me today, and please get your hush to raw. Watch other videos where you see I've explained a lot of other things to do with the psychology and what happens to our brain, our mind, and how we are in total control of what happens to us by seeking help and looking after us and others around us. So guys, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, comment please, let's have a dialogue, and remember, your inner child has a voice. Do not suppress it. Just remember, we need to discharge that energy. Don't suppress it. Let it roar. Thanks for watching, guys.